This is my full review of the Odyssey in Imax 70mm. Exactly, Christopher Nolan intended it. I saw it just now at AMC Lincoln Square Theater in the largest IMAX on the East Coast and one of the 41, was it 42 theaters in the world that can play at this setting. It's 5:25 a.m. because I booked a 2 a.m. slot a month before this to see it with a good location, a good seating. First and foremost, let's talk about the actual screen. I'm not some movie nerd who's seen tons of IMAX films. This may have been like my second or third ever IMAX film, and I figured it's about time I saw something that was worth it in IMAX by Nolan. Previously, I've seen Avatar. That was all right. Now, was this IMAX worth it? I thought it was pretty solid. I wouldn't say like you need to see it in 70mm. I think you would have had the same experience, like 98%, 99% the same experience without it. Still grateful I had the privilege of seeing it. Most people in the world do not, but you're not really missing out on that much. Now, the screen is basically a giant square. Go figure, but it's a giant square. In my head, I pictured it to be so large that it would be like scary, but it's not that large. I would say it's still large. Like it's seated at least like 200 people. So there's a lot of people in there, but like it's manageable. Like you look up, it's like, oh, okay, it's just a giant square. I can see both ends without even turning my head. Like it's all in view. It's all right. It wasn't until like halfway through the movie where I was like, oh shoot, like I gotta respect and appreciate the more wide lens I'm getting, because other people are seeing it more cut off, but you barely even notice. Like I didn't even notice until someone reminded me. And you know, then there were bits and pieces where I was like, oh yeah, I gotta remember to look at the wide screen and the wide view. But then I'm sure if people saw it more cut in, it's not that big a deal. I think the one scene I remember where it was like wide angle was when Odysseus was trapped on that beach with that Charlize Theron character, Calypso or whatever. And it was like a wide angle of the beach. Okay, so what else? Well, the acting. I think the story we generally kind of all know. At least I hope you do. I think the story carries its own, especially when written well, which it is. But I think the acting, particularly Matt Damon, I think that really carried the film. I think he was a great casting for this Odysseus character. It worked out very well. He kept you engaged the entire film. This guy really embodied this role, and the character really kept you engaged because the dude's been trying to get home for many years, and then he fought in a war for 10 years. So like for 22 years, he's been trying to get home, and he just keeps encountering these monsters, and then his men keep being picked off one by one. So I thought it was a very compelling story. I felt like Matt Damon had the strongest pull. A lot of the other characters didn't really, you know, I think they all held their own, but I wouldn't say they were truly like really pulling. Maybe Penelope, Anne Hathaway, I think she did a great job. That was also a strong pull. And then the dude who played Matt Damon's like second in command, that like Indian or I don't know what ethnicity he is, but he did a great job. I felt like they chose to make it in like plain American English, and it really translated well. Like some parts were a bit poetic, but that second in command guy, he had some great lines that just kind of spoke to the modern audience. He was like, dude, our men are starving, like we gotta eat. Or that time when like they knew they would be screwed by the gods if they ate the sun god's sheep or whatever, and he was like, dude, like we're gonna starve to death or drown to death. Like we've been here forever. We had just had to choose starve to death. I mean, drown to death. So they ate. So it was kind of funny, but like also really cool. The whole thing about the film though, or the story, is like it's it's one of those like Greek stories where like everything's kind of already predetermined and guided by the gods in a way. I guess not entirely, because I guess the gods can kind of get in each other's way, but it didn't feel like that. It just felt like the whole thing was kind of like destined, and then Odysseus was trying to fight the destiny. He didn't want his men to die, but then like they were destined to all die except him. I never really resonated that much with it, because then it's like, what's the point? Like everything's already predetermined. Like, why even try? So that's one piece. But going back to things we can control, dude, Agamemnon I thought was very well done, and credit goes to Christopher Nolan, not the actor, because the actor, he barely had any lines, and when he did, he had too high of a voice for what I think they made Agamemnon. They made his aura and his persona like super menacing and strong, and that's because of the armor. That's because of how he moved compared to his soldiers. Like the fact that he was just like so menacing. The camera angles. Nolan did a great job with the costume, like the wardrobe. He had the giant helmet with the spine back. And then when he just strolls into this the city when they invade it, incredible. Hats off to that, because that's a director's choice. Like, I've seen Troy, and it really shows you how much control and effect a director has on making a movie. And he had a completely different spin. And I don't think anyone else could have done that. If you see Troy, it's a completely more fun angle, I guess you can say. Playful angle. But to make Agamemnon so menacing and incredible, wow. Guys, I gotta hop on this train. I could talk about this for hours, but I'm gonna respect the people on the train, so I'm not gonna just, yap too much. But overall, such aura, really cool. What else? I felt like the monsters were pretty cool. I liked how Nolan hired real, like 10 feet giants instead of CGI. I thought that was just really cool. I wish, just to wrap up here, I would say, I guess parts of it were a bit grotesque, like the witch turning the humans into pigs. That went on way too long. That was kind of disgusting. I was like, I get the point, like, but they pulled it out for like 2 minutes of transfiguring them. That was too much for me. So there was, especially with many of the monsters, they added CGI, which is fine. And yeah, I felt like the story overall was pretty cool. I felt the most resounding moment, as engineered by the director, was when he strung the bow and then cleaned it and then plucked it, and then the sound reverberated and everyone knew that was Odysseus. I felt that was really cool. Because the whole movie was building up to that and alluding to that story with him being the only one who could string the bow. I felt that was really compelling. I got goosebumps when he plucked it and then that sound echoed through. They didn't make the suitors into villains, but I think the real villain was just like all the monsters preventing him from getting home. Really love the scenes where his men just kept getting picked off. The ships got picked off one by one. Overall, I found it to be like, I give it like a solid 8.5 out of 10. I don't know, it just didn't feel like, I would say it's really good. And it was cool. I liked how he kind of like went undercover. Great artistic choice to make everyone basically speak American English. I felt that was a good medium. I knew Tom Holland, that's not his native tongue. It's a good universal choice. The casting of the characters, I thought it was alright overall. I think, yeah, I know a lot of people didn't like how, I guess, diversified the cast was. And I could see where they're coming from. Like, it's not representative of the true ethnicity of the area. And then they wanted someone more macho to play Elliot Page's role. And I could see where they're coming from until I saw the movie. And then you see Elliot Page's role, and it's not one that requires the soldier to be macho. He's supposed to represent someone who basically is like a kind of, I guess, foot soldier. So it was fine to me. Some parts, like when they raised the soldiers from Hades, I didn't like the costume choice of the, I guess, Grim Reaper dude, because it didn't look like he came from the ground. It just kind of looked like he had like some clothing, some black clothing that was like attached to the dirt. So I felt like he could have made it more like natural looking and like something where he actually came out of the dirt. I would have loved to see more supernatural monsters and more battles with them. With the Cyclops, that was really cool, pretty scary. Not too scary though. And I thought it was cool with the Cyclops and how Nolan actually built a real sculpture of the Cyclops. The way I felt Odysseus and his crew acted with the Cyclops, it seemed kind of foolish. Like, you've been in battle for like 10 years, like command your troops. He did eventually start to and strategize, but like the first night they encountered the Cyclops, he was just like, I guess, frozen, and he just let his troops do whatever, and then some of them got eaten. I felt like a commander living in that world for 10 years. He would have commanded his troops better, but you know, I get it. Like, maybe he's never seen a Cyclops before, I don't know. Putting aside the critic, just me as a fan, I really enjoyed certain parts. It got me thinking, like, how would I act? How would I command? How would I lead? How would I recommend moving in the Cyclops layer? I probably would be more chill, more quiet. I might, like, you know, guide them a bit. They kind of did some stupid stuff, moved around, talked, froze, ran at the Cyclops. All seemed kind of stupid to me, but you know, people do stupid things when they're scared. I might have done the same. Yeah, I really like to see those moments. The Cyclops one was more like strategic. I like that. The one where they were like they passed the whirlpool and then the monster from the hole. You couldn't even tell what it was. It just seemed to have like these weird. It looked like a horse's foot without the hoof at the bottom. I couldn't tell what it was, and then like it was like an octopus but with horse's legs coming out of a hole in the cave. It just seemed kind of weird, but anyhow, that one was Nolan's interpretation. You know, those quick monsters where you can't really do anything, I didn't really like as much because there wasn't as much strategizing. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed it, and it's got me thinking. Now I want to like potentially read the book. Now I want to like learn more about the history of this. I hear it's like a 2,500-year-old fable, fictional tale told by a bard, Homer. So I want to do that. I actually want to learn more about the historically accurate version of the story. And I hear Elon Musk wants to put out a historically accurate version of the Odyssey, completely created by AI. I would watch that. I would really like to see how it was historically accurately told. But there's no right answer in a way because it is fiction, so you can embellish how you want to a degree, I guess. Really kind of interesting that there's so many all-star actors in this. The fact that I just saw Brand New Day with Spider-Man is kind of funny because you got 3 actors in that too. But overall, I give it a solid 8.5 out of 10.